The workplace after COVID-19 or during COVID-19. So the pre-COVID-19 workplace layout is really no longer applicable. Companies are now required to strike a balance between applying social distancing protocols and maintaining exceptionally high hygiene and safety standards. Shareholders still expect companies to ensure acceptable levels of productivity in this new reality. So while working remotely is not for every business, the ease of doing so, supported by digital connectivity, could see some companies permanently adopt this new norm in their future outlook. Xolile Sizani is the Group CEO at Servest, and he joins us now to talk about what the business or the future of business environments look like. Great to have you, Xolile. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for having me.
So as a person working in facilities management, dealing with workspaces, tell us a little bit about the landscape of the South African workplace now, obviously with COVID-19 disrupting that traditional culture of doing business.
Leanne, I think the change has been in the horizon for some time. A study that was done by Dimension Data back in 2017 showed that it was a global study and South Africa participated in that study. It showed that at that time, there was already, the sample was small, but there was already 42% of the colleagues that were identified to be working at home back in 2017. But also that study at the time said that by 2019, that number could grow to about 65%. UCT just recently also published a study that shows about 2 million of our colleagues in this lockdown period actually working from home, 2 million of the 16 million colleagues that are in the work environment. Yeah. So the change has been in the horizon. What COVID has done, and you see it in all facets of our economy, is just it speeds up the execution of those plans. If organizations have been planning to have colleagues working from home, COVID has just driven that reality quicker than it was anticipated. Yeah. So indeed, lots of our colleagues are working from home.
Yeah. I mean, it's so blatantly clear. I mean, you get onto the roads, suddenly, there is no traffic. People are not on the roads traveling to and from work. We can see that. Obviously, there's been a massive impact on everything. But let's focus primarily on these massive offices that are now empty. I mean, if people go into the office, it's not to work there, it's to pick up something and quickly leave. And this has become the new norm. And you've got these buildings that are there, they're vacant, and their businesses are running smoothly with people online working from home. What's going to happen to these offices? I mean, are they going to go back, or do you think this will be the new way forward?
There's a bit of it being the new way going forward. And again, that is possible to the extent that the colleagues that are working from home have got a reliable connectivity. In South Africa, we still have not sufficient connectivity. Data is still expensive. So to that extent, many colleagues that can afford, many professionals that can work remotely are going to continue to work in that fashion. However, talking to the space that becomes vacant, with social distancing, you certainly cannot have your entire workforce occupying the same building. It's just not possible because of social distancing, and also psychologically the risk that you expose your business to when you have everyone working in the same office space. Mm-hmm. What it means is that some of our colleagues will continue to work from home, but there's going to be others that will have to work from the office. Now, certain organizations might not, because of also the economic challenges, are not going to be able to occupy offices. Rent is not going to be, people are not going to be able to afford rent. So naturally, some of those companies are going to be working from home. So that means that the spaces that are going to be vacant is going to be very, very high. But what is also possible is that many organizations can begin to look at what we call hot desks, where in fact you have a sizable number of offices that are available, where at any given time colleagues can come in and work from that office desk, but not necessarily it being their permanent desk. I think that will also help. The other options that companies will have to consider is subleasing of some of the premises that they currently own, to make sure that the spaces do not become vacant. At least they can collect some bit of income and rent from subleasing. But again, they have to review their contracts, their lease contract, to see if those allow them to do that.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, another question I think that's quite important. Do you find that companies that perhaps used to have people working from the office, you know, every floor, whether it be 20 floors full of people working at the same time, have the costs gone down now that people are obviously working from home? I mean, telephone counts come down, the use of everything. I mean, from paper to tea to coffee to all of these kind of things, it almost doesn't exist anymore. And those expenses have gone. I mean, do you find that perhaps businesses have said, you know what, this is the way it should be, and we can afford to have a lot more money to spend on our employees?
Leanne, there's a bit of truth in that. We are seeing, you know, some of these costs, electricity costs have gone down, you know, telephone costs have gone down. Some of the amenities that are provided to colleagues at the office actually have been used less. But on the other side, even, you know, the travel costs, because some of our colleagues are no longer driving to the office, those that get benefits like petrol cards and so forth, we're seeing a lot of cost reduction. But on the other side, because of the data costs, of the telephone costs, because we now suddenly have to be using our own cell phones to call the office, to talk to our colleagues. So there is also that a downside where we're seeing some of these costs going up. But I think overall the costs have come relatively lower than expected, which is a benefit. But cost is not going to grow the business. It's to have the revenue that is commensurate or even better than your cost that will grow your business. So if you do not have those clients that you had before, it doesn't matter how many of these costs we've been able to reduce. If the top line is not coming through, organizations and many businesses are facing those challenges now, where the profits have actually gone very, very low, lower than it has been expected when we started the lockdown.
Yeah. Xolile, one final and very quick question. The psychological impact on the employee, however, because there is no differentiation between sometimes your bedroom and your office, because people are working out of their bedrooms. Their expenses have gone up. Suddenly now your electricity is much higher as opposed to what you had saved when you went to the office. Now a lot of people are carrying this burden. And of course it's that psychological impact of not seeing other people, not working with your colleagues and being with them. This must also put a strain on employees as well.
And I think that's where you will see an increase. When we talk about costs, you will see an increase in the wellness costs of the organizations, because sometimes as a result of this pandemic, you know, the psychological headspace that many of us and colleagues are in warrants us to talk to psychologists, to talk to some of the wellness programs, just to get our mind right. You will have experienced yourself and many other South Africans where you become a mother, a father, you are a caregiver, you are a school teacher, you do all of these things, and yet you are still expected to perform your office-related work. And also the level of, if I look at the time that I spend now sitting and working from home compared to the time that I spend when I was working in the office, and you remember when I was working in the office, I would be spending an hour or two driving to the office. So the time that we're spending now, there's no differentiation between the weekend and the weekday. So the work-life balance is the biggest challenge in this time. And so psychologically, that has ramifications for many of our colleagues. And I think companies must spend a lot of time trying to find ways and means to take care of the psychological well-being of our people.
All right, Xolile, very important interview. Thank you so much for talking to us about the future of the work environment and the impact that it's having on both the business and the employee. That was, of course, the Group CEO at Servest. We take a very quick break. We've managed to get the Minister, Lindiwe Zulu, online with us. We're going to be talking to her in just a couple of minutes' time. Do stay tuned.